All right, so we'll go through many topics regarding Shavuos. So first, just an interesting historical note on when was the Torah actually given, and when do we actually celebrate that giving? Now, there's a machlokus in the Gemara of when the Torah was actually given, meaning when the Ten Commandments were actually given. The machlokus is whether it was on the 6th of Sivan or 7th of Sivan. Everybody agrees that we arrived at Har Sinai on Sunday, the 1st of Sivan. The prevailing view, at least the one that the Gemara supports, is that the Torah was given on Shabbos, the 7th of Sivan. And that was the 51st day of the counting. Get back to that in a second. We always celebrate Shavuos on the 6th of Sivan, the 50th day. So why is that? If that's true, and it most likely is, that the Torah was given on Shabbos, the 7th, the 51st day, why is it that we celebrate it on the 50th day, the 6th of Sivan? So, on Wednesday, the 4th of Sivan, the Psukim say that Hashem told Moshe, go prepare Bnei Israel for the receiving of the Torah for 2 days, today and tomorrow, Thursday. And Friday, which would have been the 6th, I'll give the Torah. Moshe on his own, which is a pretty remarkable thing, Moshe on his own decided to extend the preparation time from 2 days to 3 days. Usually Moshe followed Hashem pretty closely, but on his own, he decided. So the preparation then was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and therefore they got the Torah on Shabbos. And Hashem agreed with Moshe's plan. Now, our tradition is that we left Mitzrayim on Thursday. That year, Thursday was the 15th of Nisan. Everybody agrees it was the 15th of Nisan, but our Masorah is it was Thursday. So then you start counting on Friday. We always start counting second day, Pesach. So we start counting the second day. We count started on Friday. Well, if day one of the count is Friday, the 49th day will be 7 weeks on Thursday. The 50th day will be Friday, and the 51st day is Shabbos. So we got the Torah on Shabbos, the 7th, the 51st day. But there are those who argue with that. So I saw a really nice explanation. So why is it? Why don't we commemorate on the 7th or on the 51st day? And the answer is because we, as Bnei Israel, we completed our preparation on Friday, right? We prepared Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we completed our preparation on Friday. We celebrate Shavuos, which is the receiving of the Torah, or the giving of the Torah. We emphasize the receiving of the Torah, or at least when we finished our preparation for it, rather than the actual giving. The giving was on Shabbos, but we were ready on Friday afternoon, so to speak, right? We finished preparation on Friday. And the reason that we emphasize the receiving is because let's suppose somebody they give you a book. You take it, you put it on the shelf, and you never read it. That gift is not so significant, right? The significance of the gift would be if you use it, if you read the book. So more significant than Hashem giving us the Torah is our receiving the Torah. So we celebrate Shavuos on the day that we completed our preparation for the receiving, which is the 6th, okay, the 50th day. So that's number one. We count up, not down. If something's going to happen in the near future and you start counting toward that goal, should you count down or should you count up? That depends on whether the intervening days matter or not. Meaning a prisoner who knows he's getting out of jail in 100 days is going to count 199 to go, right? The intervening days don't mean anything. It's all the goal. But if the days have some meaning, then you count up. I'll give you an example. Somebody tells you that in 100 days he's going to give you $1 million. So you're very excited. You're going to count down 199. Nothing's going to happen for 99 days. And on the 100th day, you're going to get $1 million. But if they tell you for the next 100 days, every day $10,000, you're going to count up because every day has meaning. Every day you get $10,000 richer. Now, at the end of 100 days, you'll have $1 million either way. But that period is very different. The intervening period is different. So we count up in the Omer because it's not just the goal. If it was only a goal that we're reaching for the 50th day, then I would count 49, 48, 47. But the way it should be, right, we still have a few days, is that these days are supposed to be days of growth. They're supposed to have meaning. You're supposed to work on whatever you think needs work to make you more receptive to the Torah. So therefore, we count up. Skip 3. I'm going to discuss days and weeks in when I do it 11. So why do we read Rus on Shavuos? So the simple answer is, well, Rus converted. She accepted Torah and mitzvos. So that matches with Shavuos because at Har Sinai, the Jewish nation converted. Nobody was Jewish before Har Sinai. Right? I know that's a little bit, we've discussed this a little bit, I think, months ago, but it's a little disconcerting. What do you mean? Abraham was not Jewish? Yitzchak was not Jewish? Not technically, right? They were really Ubnei Noach, but we underwent a conversion. We had the Bila in Mitzrayim before the Korban Pesach, and then at Har Sinai, we offered korbanos. We had sprinkling of blood by Moshe, which is akin to the to Tvila. To immersion, and we now 7 Ishma. So at Maimon HaSinai, the Jewish nation converted. So conversions, that's one reason. Simple, so just the harvest time. It's harvest time now. The story of Rus was hard. But the real reason we read, the actual halachic reason, why we read Rus on Shavuos is because why did he write Rus? I mean, it's a beautiful love story, and his goal was to legitimize Boaz David HaMelech. Now you'll say, because there's a pasuk in the Torah that says that a Moavi, lo yavo b'kal Hashem. Now when you read that pasuk, it sounds like lo yavo b'kal Hashem, that they're not allowed to convert. So that's a mistake. Even though that's what it sounds like, but the Torah Shabbal Peh tells us that Lo Yavo B'Kal Hashem means that you cannot marry a regular Jew. You see, anybody can convert. Anyone can convert. There's a machlokas where an Amaleki can convert, but that shows you how strong it is that there's an opinion that says, which is probably the correct opinion that we pass on, like anybody, a Nazi can convert. Nazis have converted, right? Anybody can convert. The restriction is once you convert, can you then marry a regular Jew? So an Ammoni Moavi can never marry a regular Jew. So how the heck did Rus, who was a Moabite, who converted, so how did she marry Boaz, who was a regular Jew? And the answer is, there's halacha l'Moshe Sinai that had been forgotten, and the Beis Din of Shmuel revived it and retaught it, that restriction that a Moabite cannot marry a regular Jew is only to a male and not to a female. Now, we don't have that by a mamzer. Oh, mamzer, that's only a male, but not a mamzeret. There's a rule that a Mitzri cannot marry a regular Jew until the 3rd generation. So I know you're probably thinking, wait a minute. If the Mitzri converts And he cannot marry a regular Jew until the third generation. How do you have a third generation? Well, the Mitzri, the Egyptian, can marry a convert. It's the difference between a convert and a regular Jew. Right? So the Mitzri can convert, marry a convert. They have a child. That child will have a child. That's the third generation. And that third generation can marry a regular Jew. An Ammoni or Moavi male who converts, fine, he can convert. He can marry a convert, but he can never marry a regular Jew. So that's what Shmuel was trying to legitimize, to show that many people don't know the halacha. Now we know the halacha, but many people do not know halacha. Now it's interesting. There was a closer relative than Boaz to Rus, the Goel, or Ploni. Some say his name was Tov. And Boaz offered him to buy Naomi's field and to marry Rus. And he said, I'm not doing it. Now, he didn't do it for one of two reasons. It's not because Rus wasn't pretty or because he didn't want to pitch in. He was very concerned, either because he did not trust the halacha of Moabite, not Moabite. He said, I'm not marrying a Moabite. There's a pasuk in the Torah that says that you're not supposed to marry a Moabite. Or more, because when he answers Boaz and he says, no, thank you, he says, pen it's not that was Moavi, but not a Moabite, right? No, Moavis was a rabbinical injunction or enactment by Shmuel's Beis Din. Well, any Beis Din law can be overturned by a future Beis Din law if that Beis Din is greater in wisdom and number. So he said, okay, fine, I know it. I'm familiar with Shmuel's teaching that it doesn't apply to a Moab woman, but I'm concerned maybe in the future that will be overturned. And then it'll hurt my descendants. What he did not know was that it was Allah Sinai. That will never be overturned. Now it had been forgotten and Shmuel revived it, but it could never be overturned. But Shmuel's purpose in writing Rus was to legitimize that marriage, that's saying that what Boaz did was perfectly okay, and thereby, right, their son, their grandson, and their great-grandson, and David, is fine, because there's a whole chazal and teachings that at the time of David, he had many enemies. You know, we think, David, how can you not like David, right? He had many enemies. And they claimed, not only should David not be a melech, he's not even Jewish, because his great-grandmother was a Moabite, right? And Shmuel, who had anointed and crowned David as the melech, so he was on a mission to legitimize that and to disprove David's enemies. So he wrote Sefer Rus. There is also an important connection with Rus, the importance of mitzvos ben Adam lechavero, of the tremendous chesed that Rus did for Naomi, the tremendous chesed that Boaz did for Rus, right? And there's some also agricultural laws like leket, lechavero. So it's very important on the day that we celebrate the Torah to teach that the Torah is just as much ben Adam lechavero as ben Adam lamakom. Oftentimes we focus on ben Adam lamakom, because that's a lot of the mitzvos, but Adam chavero. In fact, in the Torah, the word luchos is written in the singular, meaning there's no tav. Luchos should be lamed ches vav tav, but it's not. It's written lamed ches tav to show you it's written in the singular as if it's luchas, one, to show you that ben adam, the right side and the left side, the right side ben adam of the 10 Commandments, 1 through 5 ben adam lamakom, and 6 to 10 ben adam lechavero, it's one. You can't say I'll be a very good Jew. I'll put on tefillin, I'll put on tzitzis, and I'll daven, and I'll do I'll do abba minim, and I'll do shofar, whatever it is. But ben Abba Chaveru, I'm not interested. You can't do it the other way either. Well, you shouldn't. But Ben Adam Chavero is just as important as Ben Adam Makom. And then there's a tradition also that David HaMelech was both born and died on Shavuos. 5. We once, maybe last year, discussed in more detail the difference between the bris at Har Sinai and at Arvos Moab. Har Sinai the first year, and Arvos Moab, the plains of Moab, meaning just on the east side of the Yarden, before they crossed the Yarden into Eretz Yisrael. There was a bris at each place. But the nature of the bris, of the covenant between Bnei Yisrael and Hashem, were very, very different. The bris at Har Sinai was to teach the Torah and to obligate in mitzvos all the people who were there. Now there is everybody knows the medrash that all the neshamos were at Har Sinai, both of living people, obviously, and all future neshamos. But the future neshamos, us, were not did not become obligated in Torah and mitzvos because of Har Sinai. The Har Sinai was only for the living. The reason the neshama, the concept of awe, fear and awe of Hashem in every neshama. So every neshama could be exposed to Ma'amad Har Sinai. The covenant at Arvos Moab 40 years later was to obligate all Jews in mitzvos forever. And the reason they had to wait 40 years because they had to wait until the concept of arevus, that we're responsible. The concept of arevus, where Jew actions impact on me, is that you had to have a Klal Yisrael. And a Klal Yisrael requires an Eretz Yisrael. So it had to happen at the time. Moshe started it, and then we crossed, and Yehoshua finished it. Once we had the concept of Arevus, it's fascinating. The Arevus is both horizontal and vertical. By horizontal means that I'm responsible for you and you're responsible for me. Vertical means that it's intergenerational, go up and down. So that's why in Nitzavim, you'll look at Nitzavim, it says there that the bris at Arvos Moab affected those Yeshno Po are here, the Eis Asher Einenu Po. That phrase you will not find at Har Sinai. And you are now obligated forever. People were not going to be born for 3,000 years. It's a very different type of bris, but we're obligated in mitzvos because of the bris at Arvos Moab. 6, everyone agrees that on Shavuos you must eat well. There's a machlokus in the Gemara, because there's a pasuk in the Torah that says that the modim are lachem, are for you. And there's another pasuk that says that it's lashem. It says the machlokus. Well, what does that mean? Lachem means I can stuff my face all day, right? And Hashem means I should be in shul, I should daven, be forgotten. So one Tana says you have to choose. It's either one or the either eat all day or go to shul and stay in the base medrash all day. But the other Tana says no. Lachem and Hashem means it's both. It's supposed to you go to shul and you eat. You go to shul and you eat. Right? It's lachem and Hashem. And then Gemara has a very surprising statement. It says, but on Shavuos you must have lachem. You must have you. You must have physical. You must eat well. So Gemara says why? Gemara says because the Torah was given on that day. So that's very counterintuitive. That you learn from morning till night. Maybe just drink some water, or maybe take a little pee because it's Yom Tov. So have a challah roll to fulfill Lechem Mishnah. But why should I have a lavish meal? Because the Torah was given. So Rashi says, which is the number of answers, but Rashi gives the main one, is because we're physical beings. When are we happiest? When we eat, right? We don't have, it's always lunch and learn. We don't have just learn, right? We always have lunch and learn because we're happiest when we're eating, right? So we should show that the day we got the Torah, we're very happy, rather than that, oh, we got the Torah, oh, so I have to do it. Okay, yeah, I believe in Hashem, so I'm not happy about it, but reluctantly, I'm gonna listen to the shiur, or I'm gonna put on tefillin this morning. No, on Shavuos we have to show we're very happy about this, and the way we show that we're very happy about this is by having, cheesecake and all that good stuff. But there's another reason, and that is, there's a famous medrash that says that when Moshe went up to Sinai to accept the luchos, so the angels started complaining. They started complaining to Hashem. Why are you giving them the Torah? They're sinners. They're physical people. They have Yetzer Hara, they do this and they do that. The Torah, come on. So Hashem said to Moshe a proposal. So Moshe said, why is the Torah at all shaykh to you, to the angels? Right? Hashem says, he introduces himself in the first command. I'm the God who took you out of Egypt. You guys were slaves in Egypt? Right? And he goes down the list. Right? The second command, don't worship idols. Like you guys have idols up there? I mean, there's a concept of idol worship by angels, right? Honor your parents. You have parents, right? Whatever. Laws of kashrus. You guys eat? No, the Torah has nothing to do with you. Torah is only for man. Yeah, it's hard, we're physical beings and we have a Yetzer Hara, whatever it is. Yeah, okay, so we have to become holy and deserve the Torah. But the Torah is only for us. So that's also why we have to have lachem. It's because we're physical that we got the Torah and it didn't stay up in heaven. Why Shavuos is called Atzeres? The Torah calls two holidays Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres and Zvi Shel Pesach. Why? Because those days don't have any unique mitzvos. They don't have any unique korban. So the Torah calls it Atzeres, because Atzeres means one of two things. They're not mutually exclusive. You can explain them both. One is, Atzeres can mean latzor, to stop, meaning don't do melacha. The uniqueness of the Atzeres and Zvi Shel Pesach is there's no mitzvos. It's just that it's a holy day. It's B'Krei Kodesh, because I'm not allowed to do any melacha. Atzeres also means culmination. It's the end. So Shmini Atzeres, it's the end of Sukkot. Zvi Shel Pesach is the end of Pesach. Why didn't the Torah call Shavuos Atzeres? It didn't. And the Torah you'll find Chag Shavuos, Yom HaBikurim, Chag HaKatzir, the harvest holiday. I refer to as Atzeres because in the Torah there is a unique mitzvah on Shavuos, and that's a unique, bless you, and that's a unique korban called Shtei HaLechem, 2 loaves of bread made of wheat. The only day that it was offered was on Shavuos. It had a unique korban. Unique korban, then it's not called Atzeres. But the rabbis in their discussions about Shavuos called Atzeres because post korban, right, post Beis Hamikdash, there's no Shtei HaLechem. So now Shavuos becomes like Shmini Atzeres, like Zvi Shel Pesach, no unique anything. So we call it Atzeres. But even more so, the beautiful whole literature that Shavuos, have you ever wondered why Shavuos one day? It's Shalosh Regalim, Pesach 7 days. Shavuos is Sukkot 7 days, right? With an 8th thrown in. Why Shavuos only one day? So there's a concept that Shavuos is the last day of Pesach. I didn't make a mistake. Shavuos is the last day of Pesach, meaning you really have Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, in Tishrei, where Shmini Atzeres, and between them there's a Chol HaMoed. And then you have Pesach Shavuos. It's kind of not its own holiday because Shavuos defines the Man Cherusenu of Pesach, meaning the essence of Pesach is that it's Man Cherusenu. We became free, the holiday of freedom. But at Pesach, we relate to freedom as that we left Egypt. So we're no longer Avdei Paro. We're not slaves anymore to Paro. We're free. It doesn't mean what you're not. You're not Avdei Paro. It's what you are. You're now Avdei Hashem. So it counts to think of Kairos as being an Eved Hashem. Rav Soloveitchik has a lot of literature on this. The true Kairos is to be an Eved Hashem, to serve Hashem. So from that point of view, Shavuos is called Atzeres by Chazal because of that. And that's also, interestingly, why it's the only holiday that doesn't have a date. Pesach has a date. Sukkot has a date. Shavuos doesn't have a date in the Torah. It just says, on the second day of Pesach, and then you also need a Torah to tell you that Shabbos means the first day of Yom Tov. Because sometimes Yom Tov is also called Shabbos because it means to rest. So Yom Tov also, we don't do melacha other than cooking. And then you count 49 days. And the 50th day will be Shavuos, but there's no date, right? It may not be a date because it's the 50th day of Pesach, so to speak. So Pesach counted together very much. You want to say something? So I'll tell you, there is a whole concept, Korban Todah, because we left jail, we healed, we went through a sea. We had that. A Korban Pesach. Now, a Korban Todah had the animal offerings, but it had 40 loaves with it, 30 matzah and 10 chametz. Now, so the Korban Pesach cannot have chametz because it's on the afternoon of Pesach when there's no more chametz. The Shtei HaLechem on Shavuos is the chametz part of the Korban Todah. That's the Korban Pesach. So it's the chametz. So, right? Also, I mean, you can have cream cheese on matzah. That would go well. But the rest of the meal, I don't think matzah would go. You need to have good challah, with Shavuos meals. Okay, but it's an interesting point. Okay, what are we up to? 8, greenery and flowers. So we tried to reenact Har Sinai, Ma'amad Har Sinai, and we have greenery. Really? Har Sinai had greenery? As far as I know, Har Sinai was in the desert, whether it was in Sinai Peninsula, in Saudi Arabia. I don't think there's green pastures in the desert. So what are we doing? There was green. It was a miracle. How do we know that? There's a pasuk in Yisro that says, when Hashem is giving Moshe the restrictions of how Bnei Yisrael should behave at Ma'amad Har Sinai, Hatzon v'habakar al yiru el mulahar. Yiru not with an aleph to see, but yiru with an aleph, ayin to graze. Make sure that at Ma'amad Har Sinai, out of respect, that you don't have your cows grazing at the time of Har Sinai. Cows do not graze on sand. So Chazal learned there must have been, suddenly it became lush, it became green, there was pastures there. And therefore you need a warning, make sure your animals are kind of tied up at the barn, so to speak, don't have them do that. So because of that, the Ramah and the Maharil, we get a lot more minhagim say that you should spread out grass on the shul floor. Now, we don't do that because Janos won't allow it, right? So that was, he overrode that. But, so we started with flowers. What's with flowers? So there's a Maimon Chazal that says, Kol dibur sheyatsa mipi Hashem, nismale kol ha'olam b'samim. There was some kind of a miracle that when Hashem spoke, then Moshe spoke the words of Torah at Har Sinai, the place became very fragrant. Because Torah is supposed to elevate you, not just intellectually, but it's supposed to elevate your mood. And when we smell things that smell good, we feel good. We're happier. So we're supposed to have fragrant flowers. It doesn't mean that everybody has to rush up to the bima and smell the flowers, right? But we make it beautiful, but that's it. There's another connection to greenery, which is very sharp, I think. Now, Moshe was born on Zayin Adar. He was born premature, and his parents hid him for 3 months. And then in 9 months, because the Egyptians were on alert of every baby boy, right? So they couldn't hide him anymore. So they put him in a little teva, and they put him in the Nile among the reeds, right? Green reeds, right? Zayin Adar, Zayin Nisan, Zayin Iyar, either the 3 months end on the 6th or whatever, 6 or 7 Sivan. So he was hidden in the reeds on shores. 8 years later to the date, he accepts the Torah. Right? So we on the day that we commemorate receiving the Torah, we kind of remember that 80 years before, Moshe was lying among the reeds. I mean, maybe that's what saved him. Maybe that the reeds prevented him from going all the way into the Nile so that Batya can find him. Dairy. The Kolba, who is a Rishon, says that the reason we have a minhag to eat dairy on Shavuos is because of a pasuk in Shiur Hashirim which says, Dvash v'chalav tachas l'shoncha. The milk and honey under your tongue. And you know, Shiur Hashirim is all mishalim, parables, allusions. It's not to be taken literally. And this pasuk is allusion to Torah. So it's interesting. I as far as I know, the custom of honey did not kind of take part. Then people don't take it. But I think from this pasuk, according to the Kolbo, I wonder if Mrs. Kolbo did that. But to dip the challah in the honey on Shavuos, not just the Rosh Hashanah, because it says chalav udvash, and he learns chalav. That's his source. But we're taught already in elementary school. The Mishnah Berurah says that when we receive the Torah in Har Sinai, so part of that Torah that Moshe was dealing with, one session was on kashrus. So meat, you have to go slaughter the animal, you have to salt it, you have to remove the giranasha, you have to remove the that's hard to do. And if it's true that we got the Torah on Shabbos, you wouldn't be able to do it anyway, right? Because those are all malachos, slaughtering and dissecting the animal and salting. You couldn't do it anyway, so we couldn't have meat. But you had to go eat something. Okay, so dairy is much easier from the kashrus point of view. The Ramah says, which I think is probably the true answer, dairy, is that we try on Yom Tovim to commemorate, to celebrate the unique korbanos of that holiday. So for instance, the Pesach on the Seder plate, we have the Zroa to remind us of the Korban Pesach, an egg to remind us of the Korban Chagiga. The unique korban on Shavuos, Shtei Alechem, 2 loaves of bread. So he says, you know what you should do? You know what we do? Is at the same sitting, we have dairy and then meat. Now, obviously, you have dairy and meat, so you have to change the tablecloth. You need different silverware. You should rinse out your mouth. Probably best to eat something powerful in between. Wash your hands. And you can't have the same bread, right? So if you have a bread that you ate with a dairy meal, you're supposed to have a different bread with the meat meal. So 2 breads. So there are many different minhagim with that. Some people do that at one time or each meal or lunch usually. They'll have dairy and then then meat. Some people have dairy at night, meat the next day. Some people, this is very common, they have a dairy kiddush during the day. So they'll have a cheese, a kiddush, and then a half hour later, 45 minutes later, they sit down to a meat meal. Okay. Almost at the end. Akdamos. For many years, I just did not understand what Akdamos. I mean, I still don't understand what it means, but the whole minhag. So Akdamos, is an Aramaic, is a poem in Aramaic, which talks about faith in God, faith in the Torah, all that. But what's it doing on Shavuot? So we read Akdamos the first day. We call up the Kohen, and before he says his Birchas Torah, the laner or somebody else reads this very long. We do it responsibly. It's a few pages long, and it's also, if you go to the Vasikin Minyan, if you stay up all night, go to the Vasikin Minyan, it's a good time to catch a nap. I'm not advising that. I'm just reporting what. So why we have this? We don't do this on Sukkot. We don't do this on Pesach. What's with that? So after the destruction of the first temple, so we were in Bavel for 70 years. Only 10% of the people came back. 90% stayed in Bavel, and that became the predominant Jewish community for the 420 years of the Second Temple, and for many hundred years after that. Talmud Bavli and that. Okay. So people, you spend a few hundred years, even before that, spend 100 years, 200 years, you forget Hebrew. And they spoke Aramaic. So we had the concept of a metorgamon, an interpreter or translator. So when people used to read the Torah, the laner would read a pasuk, and then a learned person would stand next to him, face the crowd, and explain that pasuk in Aramaic, because people didn't understand Hebrew, right? It's probably a good idea to do that. We would do it in English. It would be a great thing to learn to review the parsha, although I don't think nowadays anybody would accept that, right? You're going to double the time of the laning. I don't know if it would go well, but it has a lot of logic behind it. Metorgamon. Moshe at Har Sinai. Moshe, obviously there was no Aramaic there, but Moshe was in a way a metorgamon. Hashem said something, Moshe explained it. We reenact that on Shavuos. I'm at Har Sinai. On Shavuos, we have, like Moshe was the metorgamon for Hashem, so we have to, now, by the way, by 1,000 or so, there was no more metorgamon. Okay? That minhag, which lasted for hundreds of years in Bavel, but then it went away. We kind of bring it back on Shavuos, not in the way of that the laning is every pasuk is explained in Aramaic, but we have an Aramaic poem which talks about Torah right attached to the laning, right before the laning, to reenact the concept of Moshe being a metorgamon for Hashem. And we do the same, and then we do the same concept, by the way, on the second day with Torah. Because the metorgamon would also explain the Torah. Right? So what we do the second day, the guy who, and then he reads this Yetziv Pitgam. It's an Aramaic poem, also talking about Hashem and Torah in Aramaic, and he reads that. That we don't do responsibly. That he reads, and then he finishes the Haftarah. Okay, last point. This is my favorite part of at least the Omer. Why is the Korban named Omer? And Omer is a volume. Usually the Korban is named for its purpose, for B'chatos. Describes what the purpose of it's a sin offering. Shlamim, Toda. We don't describe Korbanos by the amount, the volume. Here it's called Korban Omer. Why is it Spiras HaOmer? I'm counting the volume of barley. That makes no sense. And the third question is, Omer is a volume. The Torah actually says, the pasuk towards the end of B'Shach that says that an Omer is Asiris HaEfa, a tenth of an Efa. Every korban, every animal korban had a mincha with it, a flour offering. How much? Well, it depended on the animal. Many times in the Torah, it talks about Asiris Haifa, or it calls it Isaron, a tenth. If you bring a sheep, you bring in 1/10. Bring a ram, 2/10. Bring a bull, 3/10. It never talks about you bring a mincha, or bring an omer, a flour. No, it says Asiris Haifa. We say it every morning in the corporate you look tomorrow morning, you'll hit you in the face. How much flour the noon? Ashiris haifa. So what's with omer? So oftentimes we're learning. If you understand the question very well, the question will lead you in the direction of the answer. The third question is, why do we describe it as omer? It's the only time we describe a korban. Again, the Torah many times tells you how much volume to bring the mincha, the flour, but never says omer. It says asari saifahim. So obviously, omer, the word has some meaning. The only time we have omer in the Torah is by the mun. The Pashat B'Shalach, it tells us when the mun fell, it was how much fell for each person in omer. That was 2 meals worth: brunch, supper, and omer. How much is an omer? It's asari saifah. Omer is a code word for mun. So now, why call it by an omer, which will remind us of what is it about the mun that I have to remember? Last year I asked the same question, and I gave you one answer, which is a beautiful answer, which I spent half is with Yetzias Mitzrayim, and all Hashem proved that he was Malkeinu, he was our king. Powerful, can control nature, can do whatever he wants. So then fine. So we're great. You're the king, we're your nation. Why do you wait 50 days to give us the Torah after Yetzias Mitzrayim? Hashem didn't want our relationship to be only Bnei Yisrael and their king. He wants to be a warmer, fuzzier, loving relationship as a parent and a child. He had to teach us that he's our Avinu, he's our father. How do you teach that? By showing that I care. You go into the desert, suddenly you're panicking because there's no food, and suddenly food drops down from heaven. That's a miracle. And it doesn't happen just one day. Every day. Those 49 days between Pesach and Shavuos, Hashem proved to us with the mun that he was our Avinu. And the only way he wanted to give us the Torah is if it's Avinu Malkeinu, that we realize Hashem cares about me. And the mun fell by families. If you had 4 people in your family, 4 omers of mun fell. If you had 7 people in your family, 7 omers. That means people realized after a few days, not only does Hashem care, he knows how many people they live in this house. He really takes an interest. That's one answer, which I think is a beautiful answer. Another answer. Why the mun? What's the connection to mun? See, in the desert, we lived a very spiritual life. There were no physical needs. Food was brought from heaven. Water was given through Miriam's magical well. We had climate control. Clothes did not wear out. We did not have to do laundry. Nothing other than sit by Moshe's legs and feet and learn Torah. It was an amazingly spiritual life. But now we're entering Eretz Yisrael. After 40 years, we enter into Israel. Now, food's not going to come from heaven. We have to farm. Farming is very difficult. It's very labor-intensive work. There are 2 dangers with that. So the goal was the transition from Midbar to Eretz Yisrael. I want you to do physical work, but in elevate that physical work with spirituality. Beautiful concept. And that's what our lives are all about. But 2 dangers. One is, it's going to take me so much time to plant and to water and to do all the things. I'm not going to have time for spiritual things. I don't have time to learn. But the greater danger is, now I'm doing it. I plant the seeds. I water. I know I do it just at the right time. The wheat grows, I'm a great farmer. Kochi v'otzem yadi. The danger is I'll get Hashem. Because it was easy to remember Hashem in the desert. Everything was God-given. But in Israel, I'm farming. I'm the genius. I know how to do this. The way it was phrased, it was very good. Where I read this by Rabbi Emanuel Bernstein. The danger of this transitioning to physical life is once food comes from the ground, how do we ensure that the lessons we learned when food came from heaven are not forgotten? The lessons we learned when food came from heaven is that it's all from Hashem. How do we maintain that lessons? How do I live that lesson when the food doesn't come from heaven anymore? Now it comes from the ground. And I planted. And I harvested. Barley is the fastest crop to grow. And therefore we have a korban omer. And omer is the code word for man. Man is the example that everything comes from Hashem. So the korban omer was, even though you planted the barley and you made it grow, how much of it brings bring a korban, and how much of it is omer, man? It's all from Hashem. It's true. You did all the effort, all the hishtadlus, and this was everything in life. You picked the stock, you wrote the paper, you studied for the test. You have hishtadlus you have to do. The success of that effort, of that hishtadlus, is all from Hashem. It's a very hard lesson to learn. So that was the korban omer. But more so, why do we count days and weeks? To strengthen the connection to the man, to the omer. Because the man had a daily miracle and a weekly miracle. The man had a daily miracle is that an omer fell every morning, Sunday through Thursday. But the man also had a weekly miracle. Every Friday, 2x fell down. 2 omerim fell down. Because no man fell down on Shabbos. So you needed 4 meals worth. 2 on Friday, 2 on Shabbos. So we count days and weeks. Because, right? It's an obvious question. Let me count. It's 35 days. I know what 35 days is, right? I know it's 5 weeks. Why do I have to say it, right? Because it's the man. Omer is connection to the man. And that's Sfiras HaOmer. I'm counting the man. What does that mean to count? I have to count 49 times, right? No matter how thick my skull is, I've got to count it till it's part of me. The concept that it's all from Hashem, even when the food comes from the ground. And I'll end off with something very sharp with to emphasize this point. Partly, you also brought a sheep, an animal. You have to bring a mincha. So there was a korban omer, which is the barley. Okay. Then you brought a sheep. You brought a sheep. You have to bring. How much you bring? Oh, only time when you brought an animal sheep, when you brought a sheep, and you brought 2 tenths. Right? I don't want to confuse you. There was 1/10, that's the omer, that for the korban omer, the barley. Then you brought a sheep. With the sheep, you had to always bring a mincha. It's the only time with the sheep you brought 2 tenths. Why 2 tenths? To connect the man. The korban omer, which is 1/10, that's for the daily miracle, Sunday to Thursday. You brought a sheep, and then 2 tenths of flour. 2 tenths represents the 2x, the 2 omers that fell on Friday. So there's a beautiful connection between omer, whether it's the Avinu Malkeinu, or whether it's the lesson that it's all comes from Hashem, which is a tremendous challenge when I do all the work and I study for the test and I get an 87 and I say, I'm a genius. No, you did. Now, if the farmer wouldn't plant and he would stay at home all day, or in the shul all day, pray all day, Hashem, please make my crop grow, he's an idiot because that crop will not grow. You've got to do your shtadlus. Say, kochiv otzem yadi, you've missed the boat. So that's the omer. Okay. We've touched on many things. Ooh, a little longer than I wanted, but okay.
Oh.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening.